Hey Disney Cruisers, and welcome back to the DCL community, where we are here to help you plan, prepare for, and get excited for your Disney cruise. You guys know me, I'm Rebecca, your host and admin of the DCL community. And today we are so excited to be joined by not one, but two very, very special guests to talk about not just one, but two very, very special places. So as you guys are coming in, please say hello. Let us know where you're watching from so that we can say hi. But Tammy, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh.
Is there a little bit of a Scott, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Awesome. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Scott Sanders from the DisneyCruiseLineBlog.com.
I'm still, I know I said it last time we chatted, but still fangirling over here. This is so cool. I feel like I'm talking to the Pope. This is awesome.
Oh, no.
And then, and then Tammy, can you hear, is my audio coming through all right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is. You cut out for a minute there. I'm sorry. I probably missed something. If you lose me, Scott can just take over and I'll jump in when I get back. I don't know what you said. I'm Tammy Whiting. I'm the owner of Storybook Destinations. Let's see what else. I have went to Lookout on the inaugural, actually the preview visit, and Scott was also on that cruise. We had a great time. I would love to compare it for you.
And we're going to be getting into the nitty gritty. I know there's so many questions comparing the two, and they are different, but of course it's Disney, so there's going to be some overlap. So as we go through, please let us know if you guys have any questions, and know that if you are ready to book your cruise, whether you want to go to Lookout or Castaway or anywhere in the world with Disney Cruise Line, know that you can reach out to Tammy and her team at Storybook. They are here to help you plan the perfect Disney cruise. And the best part is their planning services cost you nothing in addition to the cost of your cruise. So they're totally free for you to use, and let them be that resource. As we're going through, you're going to see just how knowledgeable, just in a couple of sailings, how knowledgeable Tammy and Scott, of course, are. So let us know as we're going through if you guys have any questions, and I'll get the link to Tammy's page on the DCL community site in the comments for everybody. But let's go ahead and let's dive in. Yes, let's talk. Right, this is the biggest topic everybody's talking about. I feel like two things, right? The walk to the ship is one of them. So let's start here.
This is the elephant in the room, right? Everybody wants to talk about the walk from the ship because everybody's seen the pictures of the pier, which looks ginormous. It's not quite as bad as it looks, but let's compare the two. The walk from the ship. Castaway pulls you when the ship's dock at Castaway, they pull you right up to the island. Disney dug a huge trench just so the ship could pull right up there. They could not do that at Lookout because of the coral. And Disney has made a commitment with the Bahamas to not damage the island. They've made a lot of concessions, and some things that may not make as much sense to us make sense when you hear why they're doing it. They didn't want to. Oh, yeah, I just lost you again, didn't I? Scott can take.
No, you're good. Okay. We can hear you.
Oh, you're still here.
Sorry, I have such a connection. Okay. From Lookout, the walk on the pier is 0.6 miles. We measured. Several people compared it to some other things. I'll let him do that in just a second. I want to say it's not as bad as it looks. It looks super intimidating from the ship. But when you hear it compared to other distances, when you think about, as Scott just said, walking from the parking lot at Magic Kingdom, to the front, to a tram, it's not as bad as it looks. It looks bad because there is no shade, and they 100% need shade. Now, I am confident they are working on that problem right now. In fact, we heard some different people say that they were looking at the best options for shade. And also they've started already, and these last couple stops there have added water halfway down the pier, cold towels halfway down the pier to help with people getting there. So I'm sure that the walk is going to get even better. Scott, what do you want to add about that? Give us your distances you measured.
I'm pulling the distances up. I'm a couple steps away. So yeah, in a comparison, it's it's a 0.4 of a mile from the ship to the first tram stop at Castaway. So if you're not taking the first tram at Castaway and you keep walking over there, that's about the equivalent of what the pier would be alone to go from the ship to, or kind of finally reaches the shore of the land part of. You still have a little bit of walk to go to get to the trams, but we're just trying to find places, dividing lines. We're just looking at how long it takes to get to land, and that's probably the equivalent walk compared to Castaway. And I think it's a mile to go to the first cabana, past Cookies too, at Castaway from the ship. So half of that distance.
And I think a lot of people are probably so alarmed, right? Because it does look intimidating, but like you're saying, that walk on Castaway isn't bad because it feels broken up, right? You got the post office, you got all the photo opportunities and the tram, and it's really
there's some shade areas.
Yes,
it's not fully tree shaded as you walk at Castaway, but there are areas to get out of the sun for a little bit. Like under the post office, you can stop under for a little bit, or just stand there and wait for your photos with the ship's photographers and all that. So there are options to kind of, pace your walk, break it up a little bit. But I mean, really, when you get off the ship, you're ready to go. So it's kind of like, oh, we're here, but now we have some more work to do.
And the questions coming in asking, why isn't there a shuttle from the ship to the other side of the island? I know there seems to be like a tram once you get from
the pier. Yeah, and this is an engineering question that I'm not about to take on because I don't know the actual design of it, or did not speak to anybody who actually designed it. But I'm going to imagine, because of the limited amount of impact they wanted to do in the seabed and environment, and to have a pier versus having to tender, obviously that decision was made that they'd rather have a I'm just randomly saying half mile now for generalization purposes, but a half mile pier to walk, and pretty much walk primarily, versus running tender operations.
That's such a good point, because other cruise lines have private destinations on the same island, and I know you can from the ships. So it's like, would you rather tender, or would you rather have half mile walk?
And so doing I'm kind of going with, because they tried to do as light as footprint as possible by still maintaining the ability to drive like some work vehicles out there and that kind of stuff, and service vehicles is a need for operations. But to run a full tram or a larger tram with the concentrated weight of people, the bridge might not be structurally engineered for that kind of load. And that's a whole engineering question that I'm sure some engineer would love to take on and explain, and I'd love to hear it. But that's just my guess. It's also probably not wide enough to maintain a tram and some foot traffic and pinch points, which would go with the original design. And so that's my best guesstimate without knowing true engineering facts on the design of it.
I was going to say about the same thing. It's not wide enough for both, and I would assume that's how they had to build it. Also, if you've tendered much before, tendering is a time-consuming process. I mean, if I had the choice to tender and wait for the next boat, or just jump off and walk that half a mile, I'm jumping off and walking that half mile every time. So I would suspect that many people would as well.
Yeah. And while you run into issues at Castaway of not being able to dock sometimes due to the seas and wind conditions, I would think it's much more treacherous and to tender during rough conditions, to where you could potentially be able to dock in conditions, but you might not be able to safely tender in the same conditions. So your likelihood of missing the port will be greater if you're tendering, just because of the safety factor of having to bring another vessel up to the side of a cruise ship with the motion and all that.
Such good points. And, I think it's something important to say. people are going to complain about anything and everything, right? Everybody has an opinion, and we love you all. We love our Disney Cruise family, but everybody's going to have an opinion, and there's no way to make absolutely everybody happy. But knowing that Disney prioritizes nature, I mean, that's something that goes back to Walt. You know, he had such a respect for, yes, the ocean, but nature as well. And that's something that's been tried and true from then until now with Disney. So the fact that they're able to have this beautiful private destination, and yeah, there is a walk, but that, you know, you think about walking out from any port, you know, you're going to have a little bit of walk to get through the port area, no matter what port of call you're going to be at to get to wherever you're going. I mean, heck, Jamaica took us an hour to drive to Dunn's River Falls, you know, so it's part of it. Disney doesn't own this island. And I think that's something that people kind of have to wrap their heads around too, is this is a port. It is a private destination at a port, but it's still a port. And I did want whoever wants to, Tammy, if you want to take it, for people who maybe can't walk due to whatever reasons, is Disney making accommodations for that?
So here's what we know so far about that. And if you flip to the next slide, I think you'll get a shot of the pier there, and you can see how it's not very wide. This is what we know so far. People with mobility issues can pre-arrange, we were told multiple times, can pre-arrange something at guest services. And that means you're not, you know, jumping off the ship and looking around for a golf cart. If they did that, they would have a problem with probably too many people wanting to get on. So it's pre-arranged at guest services at this time. Whether that's going to be the final place that Disney lands, that's what's happening right now.
Good to know. Yeah, so you can do that at guest services ahead of time. And man, is that a beautiful shot of the magic or what? And yeah, let's talk about the tram rides, because they both have trams, a little bit different, but I've heard there's a good story that comes with the tram at Lookout. So I'm excited to hear more here.
Oh, that's true. There is. I'll let Scott. Scott may remember the details of that story better than I do that, but it is a cute audio that as you're riding through. Castaway, when you get off, as Scott mentioned, you have the choice to walk or take the tram. The walk to that first stop for the tram is 0.16 miles, as Scott said earlier. At Lookout, you do not have a choice. Once you get off the pier and get through security there, you have to get on the tram. Right now, there is no walking over to the family beach. That could change, but at the moment, there's no walking to the family beach. So you've got to take the tram. It's a 10 to 12 minute tram ride. You'll see a lot of things growing as you go. It's going to be prettier over time, but it's not a ridiculous tram ride. It's about a 10 to 12 minute tram ride, and they do have some cute audio stories as you go. Scott, did you want to say anything about that?
I did not get to enjoy the audio stories on a very loud tram ride.
Oh, you walked. That's right.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I did not walk, but I wanted to walk, but I was told I could not walk. So I took the tram, but our tram was not, we had a lot of talkers in the area, so I could not hear the story because I was not under a speaker. So it was,
That sounds like a great reason to go back.
I heard bits of the story, but the full story I did not have the opportunity to listen to. But it did sound cute for what was happening, and played in with some of the things you'll encounter once you get over there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Remind me, both trams are included, right? You don't have to pay anything extra to access these.
Correct.
You just have to walk to them.
Just have to walk to them if you can get there. And I'm assuming, I know Castaway has handicap accessible tram cars. Did Lookout have that as well?
They had at least, I think, 8 trams. I did not see all of them in their entirety to see if they have, the load on a wheelchair or a scooter kind of situation. But if they say they're accessible, there must have been at least one that had. I don't want to go on record of saying there is at least one, but I would imagine there is one. It's just the cycling of the trams, unless you stood there and just, watched all of them cycle through. I didn't. I think there's probably at least 8 of them going. I think they have 4 to 5 passenger cars apiece, plus the drive vehicle.
And do they come pretty regularly, just like at Castaway, or are you waiting a while?
I mean, is the 2 pulled away, 2 more were pulling in. So I think is potentially is tour loading and unloading at the 2 different tram stops. 2 might be cycling over, and by the time or 4 might be going. It didn't seem like we waited an excessive amount of time.
Um,
We definitely did not wait, because we didn't have a seat on the train that was going back, and we went right away in the beginning with the bulk of the folks coming ashore. So
good
we
to
didn't
know.
encounter.
It's a dance of the trams going on, just constant movement. And we do have
I
somebody
think of the
asking.
pure
Oh, go ahead.
I think just the pacing of folks coming ashore off the ship and how they get there, it kind of just paces itself with the people that may stop and get like the cold coffees or something, or stop for the restroom break or photos. It's just, I don't think there's a huge mass of people that are overloading a tram at any given time, just of the nature of how you get from point A to point B.
Yes, so true. Disney's not just going to run a tram for 2 people, as wonderful as those 2 people probably are. They're going to wait for it to fill up a little bit if they can get a full group over there. So that makes perfect sense. And we do have this question, and I think this is a great one, and one that was kind of getting me, when everything was starting up, was what's the difference between a private destination like Lookout versus a private island like Castaway? I don't know who wants to take that one.
I'll start it. We are going to talk more about that on another slide. It's
okay. We can hold off then.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do that. Okay, let's go. Ooh, the cabanas looked so nice on Lookout. I'm excited to hear your 2 cents on this one.
Yeah, they were beautiful. All of the cabanas were. On Castaway, the family cabanas are all the way at the end of the family beach. There is a rope and separating them, and that is it. But they feel very private down there, even though you can see all of the other activities taking place. At Lookout, they are truly by themselves, the family cabanas. They are right when you get to the first tram stop, before you ever get on a tram. They're one of the only things that are there. They're the only place really that has a view of the ship, other when you're walking down the pier and whatnot. But there's 20 of them. There are 4 grand cabanas. There are 2 accessible cabanas. They are very similar in their layout to Castaway, although the deck felt bigger to me in all of them. Lots of seating space. They have a great addition that Castaway does not have, and that is a little tablet inside that you can order things from. And there's a drink menu. You can order things from the bar, non-alcoholic and alcoholic, right there from the tablet. You can call and ask someone to bring more towels. You can call and ask someone to come and get your food trays. I thought it was a great addition to a family cabana. The beach was beautiful. It was wide. It felt empty, since there's 20 cabanas there. Felt empty. The water was a little rough. The day we were there. Fine for adults. We were out there for more than an hour. We were totally fine. If it was ever that rough, which that should change. But if it's ever rough, I would be out. I would, wouldn't have sent a child out there alone that day. But that could certainly change. But they are beautiful. We had a wonderful day in them.
Good. And for those who don't know, maybe a quick glimpse. Why are these cabanas so wonderful? I know they're a hot commodity, but can you just shed a little bit of light on what these cabanas kind of are at Castaway and Lookout, and what's all included?
Yes. Okay. So for both of them, I'm a huge cabana fan, but they are very hard to get. They are pretty much taken both at Lookout and at Castaway by concierge guests. By the time it opens up to anyone else, they're pretty much gone. And sometimes there's not enough for concierge guests as well. There's more concierge guests than there are cabanas. But they are a wonderful private area, your own private area for the day, with shade, with your own beach chairs there. They include snorkeling equipment, bike rental, things like that. There's other things that are included with them. The family cabanas on Lookout, because they're so secluded, I think I forgot to mention this, they have a restaurant right there in the middle of them, which is wonderful. So you don't have to take the tram over to the main beach. Pretty much everything you need is right there. And they have cooked to order steak at that restaurant. They have restroom facilities over there. They have a bar there. They have pretty much everything you need there. They have very nice towels. They have a safe inside. They have a refrigerator stocked full of sodas and water, and a bowl of fruit waiting for you, and a little basket of snacks and chips. And cabanas are an amazing way to spend the day.
Man, I've never seen a cabana, but I will say that does sound pretty gosh darn nice. And this picture is just stunning, just absolutely stunning. And they have some cabanas over. Oh my gosh, so pretty. They have some cabanas and the adult only beach, right?
They do, and that's the next slide. This slide is the family, and the next slide is the adult cabanas. The adult cabanas are very different between the two islands. On Castaway, the adult cabanas are on Serenity Bay at a beach that's totally removed from the rest of the family beach. And you take a tram out there. You could walk out there, but it's a long walk. You take a tram out there to Serenity Bay, and they have their own restaurant out there, but it's for all of the Serenity Bay guests. Unlike the family cabanas at Lookout, that restaurant is just for those 20 cabanas. And the water at Serenity is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful shade of blue, which you can kind of see there on the right side picture. They're set back from the beach, and they are on both islands. They're like this. They are set back from the family beach on both destinations is right there with your own private beach. At Serenity, the adult cabanas, they're set back and the Serenity Bay guests are in front of you, which was no big deal. I didn't think I would like that the first time I tried a cabana at Serenity, and it didn't bother me at all. You still have a great space. And it's pretty much the same inclusions as the family beach. On Lookout, the one difference there is their location. And since they are not separate from everything else, Serenity Bay, is at the adult beach, is at the very end of the family beach on Lookout. And the cabanas are right as you're entering Serenity Bay. So everybody walks behind those cabanas that is going to the adult area, which is interesting. It's an interesting choice. I looked at it initially and thought, well, that's not private at all. But I will say once we got inside and had the door shut, it didn't bother us at all. It was still a great space to be for the day.
I gotta say that's like the carrot dangling as people are walking over to their individual beach chairs. Like, look at what you could have if you were in concierge. I love it. Oh, that's awesome. And did you feel like it was worth it to have them? Do you always feel like it's worth it to have these cabanas at either beach?
I do, for sure. Now, I will say I generally split them with someone else. I'm generally splitting them with friends, which makes it much more palatable, for sure. But we definitely do. We are fair-skinned, freckly people that can't be in the sun all day long. So having our own shade is wonderful.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That reminds everybody going to get your dermatology appointment set up because those freckles will get you. Oh my gosh. I just want to be at Castaway or Lookout, and food doesn't help. Food is my favorite topic when it comes to Disney cruising. So let's dive into the food at Castaway versus Lookout.
Okay, so I think the food at Castaway is amazing. It's one of my favorite things. I don't know, it may be partly because I'm starving by the time the restaurant opens, because we rope drop the island and we rope drop lunch. We get there early and we are hungry by the time it opens, and so that may play a factor. But Castaway food is wonderful. It's got ribs, hamburgers, hot dogs, chicken sandwiches, steaks at the Serenity Bay. Castaway food is wonderful. The next slide is Lookout, and you'll see a difference in my picture here. My picture, and Scott will probably have some things to say about this as well. So
it's a healthy lunch right there.
That was my lunch. On the preview cruise, especially, there was a big problem with flies that day, and I'm sure a lot of people have talked about it. There were a lot of reasons for that. They had never had that quantity of food out at the at Lookout before, because it was the first day guests were there. The construction, I'm sure, kicked up a lot of flies. So they're working on mitigation. I've already heard they're getting better. The day we were there, it wasn't great, and I had a hamburger because that was about all I could have, because I could hold it in my hand and wave it around so no flies would land on it. But I also learned this very important fact: flies do not like ice cream. They could care less about our ice cream. So ice cream it was. But as I said, I've heard that's already getting better. Scott, have you heard the same thing?
I think there were, with the 2 follow-up visits on the Fantasy, the first day was a challenge. They still made strides. On that day, they had additional fans by the, walk-up windows to help try to get some airflow moving and, overcome the flight of the flies. The second day, the fantasy was back. I heard they had cellophane wrap over the food, and it was more of a food service situation where there was less food exposure to open air, which helped mitigate the probably whatever aromas go out into the world that they are attracted to. I don't know I'm not a biologist, but I don't know how bugs work, but I don't know if it has something to do with, the uninhabited area of the island. Now that's now kind of inhabited. It's been developed to a point. The plants are still juvenile, the ones they've put in. There's some plants that were still waiting to be taken out of their pots and put in a hole in the ground. So I think there's just a lot of moving parts right now, and the dust hasn't settled, literally, in some cases. And it's like I said earlier, it's a learning curve, and it seems like they're trying things. It doesn't appear that they're like, it is what it is, folks, enjoy, make do. But it's trying to figure it out what works, and that's I don't have I don't know what the solution is, but it's good to see that steps are being taken, and I don't know what else I could ask anybody. I'm not just, what do you do? I mean,
Yeah. I was gonna say, it sounds like we should all eat ice cream is the easiest solution, which is fine by me because flies and I do not have that in common. I love ice cream and could have it for every meal. But Disney's so good about listening to feedback. So you're spot on. They're making changes and adjustments, but they can only do that so quickly.
It's not a design they want to go forward with, obviously.
Great point.
But aside from that, I tried most of the food that was there, and I think it was it was good direction, nice little unique offerings compared to Castaway. I didn't have anything. There were a couple things that I think might have been a preparation issue, but I'm not going to judge it solely on the opening day because we even rope dropped, like Tim said, we were there early and we rope dropped right at noon. I think as soon as they're like, hey, we're open, we were walking up. So I don't know. That was the first time these crew members from the ships, we had gotten there, I think 2 hours before we were let off, because all the crew members had to go to their positions for that day, not only learn the location, the property, what they're doing. You walk into a kitchen and figure out how to cook something without knowing where things are. And I don't know how much, to be fair, I don't know how many actual island crew members were there for the kitchen prep versus what comes ashore from each ship. I didn't get a clear answer on that, so I might be off on this, but I think there's opening woes, just like restaurants have friends and family nights, soft openings, and then they have a grand opening once they kind of get rolling. I think it all goes. The food, like I said, the food I had, I enjoyed. Looking past, the elephant in the room, the other elephant in the dining room.
I was gonna say we might need a few less elephants, but
yeah, I'm not trying to give anybody an excuse or a pass, but in a way, I'm giving if you don't make any progress or corrective action, it's one thing. But I believe corrective action will be taken, and I'm not going to dwell on early negatives unless a year later they're the same, or 6 months.
Yes.
We got to.
That's the best way to look at it. Oh my gosh!
Things were not ideal. There are instances that were not ideal from the initial walks and the flies, but is what it happened. And I told somebody, nature is undefeated.
Yeah, Mother Nature's got a mind of her own. She doesn't really care that it's preview weekend for Disney Cruise Line, and I think right, people complained about the Wish when she first opened, and she was not completely ready. People complained back. I remember our cruise on the Dream back in 2011. She was not completely ready. People complained about that. I feel like people got to take it with a grain of salt. There's so much good here and so much awesome. And Scott, the fact that you did have so many good things, because I'm with Tammy. I love Castaway food. Let me tell you, I could eat a Castaway. There's just something about Castaway lunch that gets me. So I'm excited to hear that some of these other dishes have a lot of promise, and that's, it's exciting to have new things. It's exciting to have things.
And I wasn't trying to bag on the food at Castaway. It's there were some slight changes recently, but it's relatively been status quo over there. So having a brand new menu, pretty much with some favorites in there, it was awesome. Something.
No, I'm right there with you. It's nice to shake things up. I have my favorite menus on board, but would I like to see a new menu now? Yeah, I'm not going to complain, Disney. Don't take away some items, but right, it's just there's not going to be any shortage of food, and I can promise you that no one's ever gone hungry on a Disney cruise. Not a one. Let's talk about these kid areas, because the Lookout one looked awesome.
It really was awesome. I think both destinations have great areas for kids, as they should. They are Disney Cruise Line. Castaway, you see that's Pelican Plunge there. It's out in the water. You swim out to it. They also have a splash pad, spring a leak. It's a little bit smaller than what you see at Lookout there, but still it's a fun space for kids. And there is a kids club on the island that you can go and check your kids into, which is wonderful. At Lookout, it's called Sebastian's Cove. It's at Castaway, it's Scuttle's Cove. At Lookout, at Sebastian's Cove. And the picture there on the right is Rush Out, Gush Out. And it's a giant splash pad at Lookout. Really, really well done. It was super popular all day. I can see it being busy all day long it was very, very well done. And there's other areas. Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Sorry, I was going to say it's much more approachable than Pelican Plunge for the younger kids, because
you don't have to swim out to it. You just walk over there. Yeah, absolutely. And there's other areas on both islands that have games and giant Connect Four, things like that. There's other games to play on both destinations at other places, but those are the two highlights there for the kids: Pelican Plunge at Castaway and Rush Out, Gush Out at Lookout.
Awesome. And we've got somebody asking, what about the tweens and teens? Is there anything on Lookout for them? Because they do have dedicated spaces on Castaway. At least the teens do.
That's a really good question. I do not think there is a dedicated space right now for teens and tweens. I don't remember seeing one. And I'm trying to think if there was an excursion specifically for teens and tweens like they do on Castaway. But I do not think there is right now.
One of the big things was the scavenger hunt for the teens and tweens, with 60-some things to go find throughout. But the day we were there was pretty busy, so we never got around to it. It was a unique visit that day, so we didn't. My daughter didn't really venture out into that kind of stuff. Yeah. So they also have the craft thing. Yeah, but they also do the family crafts, which would be a teen and tween-ish, crossover option for the junk and new headdresses.
Yes, activities for sure, just not a specific private area that I can think of.
Good to know. Yeah, and for those out there, the teen hideaway, I think or hideout that they have at Castaway now, that was not always there. Way back in the day, the teens, we used to have our own beach where the cabanas are, and then those stinking cabanas came in and took away our fun. But even the teen beach, it took a while to arrive. So, these are things, like Scott was saying, things are going to be evolving. This is a brand new destination, and Disney's so good at listening to feedback. So I wouldn't be surprised if down the road there is a dedicated space. But knowing, you mentioned the scavenger hunt, and I know people love Midship Detective. So that's cool that there's an option on the island that allows you to, it sounds like, really explore if there's 60-something things on it.
Yeah, it sounded fun when I heard it explained to me, and I don't know if it was. I don't even remember. I have to look back and look at the schedule. I don't even know if there was a spot to go pick up a paper if you wanted to do it that day, or just was not ready for prime time, or the uniqueness of that voyage. I don't know. It's a
no.
promising activity for sure. I know my daughter was excited to try it, so
Yes.
I'll definitely do
I
that
did
next
love
time.
I do love that they have options for everybody of all ages on on both. And somebody's asking, is there a net in the water like a Castaway to keep out big predatory fish? Do we know
Nope.
that one? No.
There is
That is a hard no.
Mhm.
It is open water, and seas and marine life will change just like any other wide open beach. So
Good to know.
there are
Okay.
lifeguards positioned. There are lifeguards positioned. People are watching out, but there's no safety net.
To know, yes. And I'm assuming, right, if there's right, Disney safety is a top priority. So if the waters are not safe to swim in, they're not going to let you get into the water.
They do
why they
have
play.
different. They do have lifeguard, or like you go to any beach, they have like flags that'll go up for the sea conditions, and they do have a flag system in place for different sea conditions, up
Love
to
that.
no swimming.
Well, yes, I was going to say, especially being in Florida, you probably know that all too well. Oh, and let's talk about some of the water activities. Should I click ahead?
Yeah, click ahead.
Awesome. Oh, I just snorkeled for the first time at Castaway, and it was awesome. I don't know what took me 25 plus cruises before I did it, but you guys go snorkel at Castaway. It was a blast.
I agree. Snorkeling is a very, very reasonably priced expedition or excursion at either one, I should say, and we love snorkeling. It is Castaway. They have some great things, treasures to find down there. They're well marked, so you have a general idea of where you should be swimming, and it's in a private lagoon. There, we're not everyone in swimming in that area has the snorkeling vest on and is snorkeling. At Lookout, which is the next slide, you definitely can snorkel, but there is no, and this is over at the family cabana beach because you won't normally have that view of the ship. But you can snorkel. There's nothing sunken, and it goes back to the same agreements I'm sure that Disney made with the Bahamas to not disturb any coral or anything else down there. So I mean, you can see how clear the water is there. I mean, it's great for that. It's just beautiful water. So I still think snorkeling there would be just as fun.
Yeah. Pro tip on the snorkeling: you mentioned it's a good deal. You can also bring your own equipment and just go grab one of their snorkel vests and do it. You don't even have to pay to snorkel. You just need to have one of their vests or bring your own vest. That's very similar. You can just go out and have a good time at either place.
Yes, which is much easier to do if you're driving from Florida and you can fit that snorkeling equipment in your car.
I was going to say, those of us who fly, we feel the pain, but I do love the money saving tips coming from Scott because Lord knows we could all use it. And I mean, this water is just breathtaking. Are there any other things that you can do in the water? I know we've heard rumblings about, other excursions or port adventure opportunities here, but any other call outs at Lookout?
I mean, it's just a gorgeous beach.
Point out,
if you're going to multiple ports, I think this is a great option for a true beach day where you just hang, enjoy the gorgeous water, and pick another port to do. Maybe not a beach day, but the beach just can't be beat here. It's gorgeous. I've been compared to some other places in the Caribbean. This is up there with some of the great ones. It's just really, all things considered, it's really easy to get to.
Very true.
Considering some other treks to get to beaches, like from a port of call, we have to get mentioned on multiple modes of ferry or transportation, bus or something, and go for an hour drive. Like, this is a pretty amazing beach to have access to versus some other options that you actually pay in a port of entry cost to go do, versus here it's included for a beach getaway.
Such a good point.
Plus, when you come up from all the beaches, all like the food and beverage areas near the beaches, like the bar or place will face the beach as you're walking up, but as you walk behind it, there are restrooms and showers on the side of all of them. So there are facilities all over at each venue, instead of just kind of more Castaway where they may be tucked back a little more or not so frequent. So they're spread out a little bit better here, and more dedicated thought on let's place these with food and beverage kind of venues that are accessible from the beaches. So you cleaned up easier, go to the bathroom.
It's so nice. And the feedback that I feel like I've been hearing is it just feels so modern. Those like elevated walkways seem to be a big favorite. What did you guys think of those and the ability to access everything and the beach?
The elevated walkways have a purpose. They were trying to preserve the flora and fauna underneath for the island, but boy, they are very pretty. They're great to avoid the hot sand at times, and yeah, it gives it a really nice look too. So they have dual purposes there.
Yeah, it's very nice not having to traipse through sand all the time, and it's easier to walk on. For most parts, I've heard there's issues with some accessibility issues with the transition from the walkways to the beach and vice versa. But it's if you've ever tried to drag a beach wagon across sand, it's not very fun. So I imagine being able to go large distances on either some concrete or a raised wooden pathway is so much easier. Transition being an issue they have to work out in some areas, but it's much easier to walk around. I did notice you could see a place you wanted to go to, but you had to go this way, this way, this way, and this way, or down this ramp, over there, and back up down this one to get to it. So where you couldn't just go across the line to venues, you had to go in and out, in and out. Again, that's probably not common practice. As again, they were there. My focus was on trying to get to a bunch of different places, not, the rest and relaxation kind of beach day. So true usage, a use case would be different on a regular visit. So I've got to reframe my head. But
Tammy, it sounds like we need to get Scott on another cruise to Lookout. That's what I'm hearing.
I know he's got at least one booked, I'm sure.
I love it. And somebody's asking about shade on the beach. Are there loungers, chairs, ? Umbrellas, ? Worried about being sunburned without a cabana?
There are a ton of umbrellas, a ton of chairs. I was super impressed with the seating on Castaway, and I mean on Lookout. And I don't think they even had all of their chairs in yet, from what I heard. And there were so many. So I don't think you'll have a hard time finding shade at all. There are one difference on Lookout. There are no hammocks. I don't know if that will change at some point, but I don't expect it to. There are no hammocks like you'll find at Castaway. But shady beach chairs, absolutely.
Yes, and just so everybody knows, those are included. You don't have to pay for those, like in other ports of call, perhaps. And yes, let's get back to this guy, private versus not private, because this was a hot topic. People trying to figure out who all could use this. So let's dive in.
Okay, this is a hot topic. I will definitely want Scott to weigh in on this. Castaway is a private island. Disney has the entire island. Even though guests can't access all of it, they have it leased it. They lease it, not own it, right? The whole thing.
99 years.
99 years. Lookout is not. It is Disney has leased the southern tip of the island of Eleuthera. I think I'm saying that right. I have a hard time saying it every time. It's close enough, right? Okay. Purchased. Okay. It's just this part of the island, and the rest of the island is a Bahamian island with longtime residents there. And so in the agreement that Disney made with the Bahamas when they purchased this, they agreed that the residents would have access to Lookout Cay. And so they do. And they can access the area anytime. They can, when the ships are there, they can only eat if they purchase a wristband for the day. So that's a little bit of they don't quite have free access, but for food and beverages, they do have to purchase a wristband for the day. I will say it was open the day we were there, obviously, because it always will be. I didn't notice anything different. I didn't see a single change, but I know that is concerning to some people. Scott, what did you want to say about that?
They visitor, so I guess the best way to look at day pass, like think of it as a day pass for, a resort anywhere else. You could buy a day pass, and that is, if you boil it down, that's kind of what it is. But Bahamian residents and citizens, they can do that for free. There's no cost to them to utilize the property. The kids areas are off limits, like the secured children's youth activities. That's cruise line guests only. And guests that do come in do go through security checkpoint. And I mean, there's no necessarily blueprint what happens if you show up on a boat offshore and swim aboard that, but that I'm sure there's lifeguards paying attention to that, or some other eyes, camera systems out there to address that situation. So it is open for residents to come and enjoy. And part of the property or the purchase, it's interesting in the Bahamas, a lot of like Castaway is leased because that's how it was. A lot of this parcel was actually privately owned, which was why when it came for sale, they could outright buy the property, but they had to have essentially that agreement with the Bahamas to, purchase and do, their development plan on it. So that had to be done in order for everybody to play along together and have a good path forward. But in that, they also donated lands back to the Bahamas, especially that crop of land down by the lighthouse that comes out into the water. The actual point was given back in some areas further north. And I mean, there's a map someplace, but there were lands that were given back to the government, like say they purchased 300 acres, and that's not the right number, even close, but they may have given back 50 acres back to what they call crown land, government owned land that is part of, and called a goodwill gesture as part of, the sweeten the deal to get, of all the agreement that they signed. And,
I know,
in order to get a new, so it's just another one of those cases where in order to get a new destination available to them, concessions were made in the grander scheme of things.
Yes. And I know they've got private roads that they donated back to. And, if anybody has a private island that they want to donate to Disney, I think they would be open to it. Private islands just aren't popping up everywhere. So I think this has been, a phenomenal opportunity for Disney to give back and maintain the environment and maintain culture and invest in local communities. There's just wins everywhere. And I know there's been some apprehension from people about it not just being cruise guests, but I have not seen anybody who's actually been there said that they don't feel safe, that they felt uncomfortable, that, they felt, it's like, how would you know if somebody was or wasn't, unless you're really, really trying or paying attention.
I feel like somebody told me there were 8,000 residents on Eleuthera total. And I think it spans 100 miles from north to south. So it's not easy to, it's a drive to places, and also people have their normal lives they go about doing.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And
it's
then
so true.
You also have locals that, live in the area that are working on the property. So it also allows their families to come enjoy the property and the stuff. Bring your families to work day kind of thing. So I think on paper, when you throw it out there, it sounds, oh no, but realistically, how many people are doing that?
Yes. Yeah. And You know, you can do that at any resort that you go to. People can buy day passes. You know, people buy when you visit Nassau, people buy day passes to go to Atlantis, you know, and that is private. And we see this question, private destination, but it's not private. Disney still owns the property, right? That's what it comes down to. Disney owns the property. They did donate some back, but the, you know, Lighthouse Point at Lookout Cay is Disney's. They just don't own the island. They own the property. So
It is.
And I'd have to take a deep dive. I'm pretty sure beaches are public in the Bahamas, so you can't say you can't touch this part of the beach. Like, you know, put a rope up and say you can't cross this, like at Castaway, where you can't go to the cabana, can't pass the cabana rope without a wristband. So
I visited several destinations in the Caribbean with sandals, places like that, and 99% of the time they do not own the beach. Their beach is not private either. Residents can come onto the beach when you're visiting the property. They can't come into certain areas, just like Scott mentioned. They can't go into the kids areas on Lookout, but there are places that are private on it. I would like to point out, though, that Disney is not actually the one that is saying private island. That's out there a lot, but it's easy for us to say because Castaway was a private island. So it was real easy to start saying it's Disney's second private island. And so it's not a private island. And even the area is not completely private. I started searching around today to see what Disney is calling it right now. And I didn't see them saying private anywhere. I may be missing it somewhere, but in general, they were calling it Disney's island destination or Disney's second island destination.
that is pretty much the nomenclature that's being used is island destination, and we're referencing, unlike our private island, Castaway Cay.
Yeah.
You know, something along those that term.
Yeah.
It's word salad at the end of the day. It's going to happen, but
yes. Oh, but either way, I feel like people are going to have an amazing time. Oh my gosh, look at that! Look at that water. I can't get over how pretty the water is at Lookout. I can't get over it. Let's dive into the
pictures
culture.
don't do it justice.
No, they really don't. They really don't. So Lookout really has Disney really made a strong effort here to celebrate the Bahamian culture. And I think they did a really good job with it. They're using the colors of the Bahamas on the buildings. They're using the music throughout. The picture there is a Junkanoo. It's a long Rush, a Junkanoo celebration. That's only part of the title. I think it's a long title. It's a festival that takes place where they have live music. They have a parade through the main area, and they have a store set up with local artists that have some really amazing art that they're selling there. I think they did a really good job of celebrating the Bahamian culture on Lookout. What did you think, Scott?
Yeah, and they also do part of the Rush. Kind of before that, there's an activity for the kids and families to come together, and the cultural center that they have kind of is their focal point, where you can come and make a Junkanoo headdress like you see wearing here, and then you wear it during the Rush activity. And these performers these performers are coming from their origin point elsewhere on property and down the pathways playing, so you can hear the music going as they start. And if you're just casually walking around, you'll see musicians, as you see pictured here, coming up, and then the characters will also be integrated into this a little bit. And so even if you're not at the event, you can see them coming and going before and after.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. I love that Disney did this. And did you guys go to this? Did you have a good time? Did you enjoy the Rush?
It was fun.
Yes, it was very good.
It was energetic. It was
awesome. I love that. A little something to add to a relaxing beach day. Some fun in there too.
Those the performers are actually local, residents that are doing this, and those are actually those are not Disney costumes like from costuming. Like those are actually what they would make, and you'll see different iterations of this because just the nature of how they make it with crepe paper. They're not going to last long. So they'll be, remade, different versions and stuff like that. So Disney's brought some new materials to this. It's a whole it's an interesting cultural thing that they do in the Bahamas, and like where they get groups together, they have their own little design motifs and music, and it's almost like a competition between different groups, like their music, their dancing, their theme, and then like you vote on, like you pick a winner, declare a winner. It's a huge cultural thing that happens a couple times a year, and I think a lot of it is in their design and development and building of all this stuff and bringing it together, where the parade is just the culmination of it all. But it's bringing all their friends and family together to work on it and then perform it and have fun with it. So it's interesting how there's a lot more to it than just a performance. That's I guess the short answer to that.
I know that's definitely at the top of my list. Yes, I want to see the beach when I go, and I definitely want to eat because the food sounds delicious. But everybody has just raved about this event who's gone, and it seems like it's just spectacular. So I know that is a must-do for me. And before we dive into the beach, are there any other must-dos that you might recommend for families or adults, whoever, to look at when they're visiting?
That was going to be my first one, was not to miss Rush. I would say even if you're not a swimmer, you're not really interested in the water or the beach, you've got to go down there and look at it. You've got to get close enough to see how beautiful it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true that the sand is pink? Is that a rumor?
It is technically pink, but not like, it's not a vibrant pink, but it is technically a pink sand beach, and their words. You can tell there's a little bit of a hue to it, but not like the photographic pink sand.
I thought
it's there if you.
Sorry, I was going to say I thought
if you look at it.
Mm-hmm. Bermuda's famous for its pink sand beaches, and the first time I went to Bermuda, I remember looking at the beaches and expecting like the color of my shirt or the color of that man's shirt, and I was like, this is not. But then you get down an angle and you start to realize, oh yeah, there is a strong pink hue to it. And at Lookout, there is a light pink hue to it, but I have heard they said that at golden hours, when it really comes out, at golden hours when you can really see the pink, which we were not there for.
Yeah, I was going to say Disney might have to stay a little bit longer for us all to be able to take advantage. And speaking of the beach, let's talk about Castaway versus Lookout here.
All right, so that is Serenity Bay there, which, as I mentioned before, has beautiful blue water. And if you go to the next slide, this is Lookout. And as Scott said, that's the family beach, family cabana beach there. But pictures just don't do it justice, how beautiful this blue water is. The beach is soft. The sand is soft. I've been to Turks and Caicos I've always said is my favorite water I've ever seen, most beautiful water I've ever seen. And I tell you what, Lookout is running really close to that now. It was so blue. It takes your breath away for a second when you first see it, like, oh, wow, it is blue. Beach is soft, beach is beautiful, beach is wide, and the beach is long. It's a really good, as Scott mentioned, beach destination.
So it didn't feel crowded on either?
Mm-mm.
Beautiful.
I feel it'll hold people well. There's a lot more expanse of the beach from, the walkways to from the walkways to the beach line, depending on when we first got there, it was low tide. It was way out. So it was, I didn't see it. I don't know if we were even close to being around when the tide was coming in or where it was at when I last saw it, but there was pretty good expanse of a beach, and also it stretches from north to south a considerable distance. So, even if you didn't have a lounge chair, you could go grab a towel and just like go lay down and have like a sit down beach area. You won't have any shade, but there's areas to go where you can get away from people, and it's almost like you're at a private beach, even in a cruise destination.
Awesome. I know some people will complain about that first family beach at Castaway being crowded because, of course, that's where everybody gets off the first tram stop. But if you keep going, there's plenty of chairs, and it sounds like Lookout is that same way. There's plenty of places and even some spots where you might feel like you're on a private beach of your own, which is awesome. I do love that they kept the colorful umbrellas. That makes me so, so happy. And we do have a couple more questions that came in as we were going through. If you guys have a couple minutes left for me to steal.
Sure.
Somebody was asking for examples of the food that's different from Castaway.
Scott, you take that one.
So there's like a shrimp jambalaya. I don't have exact details on it because I have a shellfish allergy, so I avoid it. But I know my wife and daughter enjoyed it. There's a chicken and like rice bowl that was very flavorful. The ribs are kind of, I'd have to really look into it, but I think they're pretty close to the same. They have different sides for the fish. Like they had snapper and salmon, and so it was a like kind of a grilled pineapple with black beans, like almost a grill. It wasn't a cold salsa; it was a warmer salsa. There was a plant-based curry that was there. So there was a whole slew of different options that weren't the same.
Yeah, and I know I've seen.
You still had your favorites. Still had the guest favorites of the hamburgers and hot dogs. But even the hot dogs, they had some like a chili sauce to put on top of it or some sauerkraut. So it wasn't just plain hot dog for you. So there was some variety with the standard options.
Yeah, I cannot get enough when it comes to food on Disney cruises. I could talk about it all day, and sometimes I do. But I love that there's variety there for people to try. And yeah, just something a little bit different. And I feel like somebody was sharing about like a cold brew, right? They have some custom drinks as well on Lookout. So I'm excited that it's not just the food. There's other options as well.
And it's conveniently located right off the pier. You can stop right there and get a refreshing beverage.
There you go. You feeling thirsty after that walk? And then somebody's asking if there are wheelchairs like there are at Castaway for the beach at Lookout.
The beach wheelchairs?
Yes.
With the big wheels? There should be. I know they're mentioned in the talks, and they say they have them with limited quantities, first come, first serve basis. So I would inquire early and often at guest services. That's just something I didn't see any. I don't know if that's an opening day thing or it was a need based. Tammy, I don't know if you talked to anybody.
I didn't see any either, but I agree. I've heard multiple times that they're there.
Yeah, and I just read something today that they mentioned first come, first serve on them. So it's not. Just inquire early and often.
Yeah, so that sounds fair. And speaking about things that may just not be ready open for opening day, somebody was asking about bikes and the 5K. We got like 5 questions about the 5K. I do not run when I am on vacation. I don't run normally. Who am I kidding? So what about the 5K, and what about things like renting bikes? Is that something that's coming? Do we know?
Yeah. The 5K, I've been told, is something that's likely to come in the future, and I'm using likely specifically as an out in case it doesn't. But that was talked about with a couple of guests that were on the first fantasy cruise. As far as the bike paths, the paths themselves are not ready yet because it was they're saying they have to be cured. So if it's part of the nature trail and bike path, so I don't even know if we talked about it, but if you're into sightseeing and adventure, go walk. I enjoyed walking up to the lighthouse. It's not a lighthouse as you traditionally know a lighthouse. It's technically a light station, but it's been there since the 1901 in some version of it over, since that time. So it's actually up there on the nature trail. It's not a terribly long walk. It just looks long on paper, but that nature trail was part of the bigger nature trail, and it was still soft. It wasn't compacted yet. I don't know if they're putting making it concrete or not. I'm not sure. Some sort of compaction that will happen to it. But if you've ever ridden on a dirt road or a sandy beach on a bike, it's not very easy after a while. Yeah. So it's not ready for prime time. And I'm going to call it the pavement, but the surface is not ideal for biking, especially in large groups in the summer in the heat. So once the bike paths get ready and the bikes are ready and staged, then the bikes will. If you look around, we didn't see any bikes, but the reason for not having any bikes on site is why would we have them outside in the elements when we can't rent them at this time?
Such a good point. Yes, the practical side of things. And then somebody else,
Sea air is not nice to things.
yeah. And somebody's asking about characters. Were there plenty of chances to see characters on Lookout, just like on Castaway?
The ideal time is the rush because they'll come and dance. There's the other activity over at the Play Pavilion. It's the Beach Bash with Goofy, Donald, not Donald, Chip and Dale, and some friends, and that's more of a youth. It's a family kind of event where you can go do some beach games like ring toss, where they did the limbo, pail toss, like some fun activities. You can interact with the characters and play some games over there. And right now they just have do you know the logo, like kind of the logo that's being used? It looks like I'm going to say a peacock logo in a way. It's
Yes.
half circle it's a Junkanoo inspired photo op out by the Disney Dings and Aleutian or what's the Treasures of Eleuthera.
Yeah.
The two main shopping areas there. And then that's a photo op. I don't know if like Mickey will. I didn't see it at that time that Mickey shows up there and does photos, or is it just a self-done photo op? Tammy, did you?
It was self-done.
Character times.
It was self-done.
You see character times.
I think now they're seeing character times, and I know that I also saw some pictures of Minnie making her way over to the family Cabana beach so they don't feel like they need to make the long trek over as much. So yeah, I think they're kind of spreading out. But
while there's the Mickey photo backdrop, there are locations in that area, other pads for the other character inspired versions of that. And that's on some of you can see kind of what those look like on the merchandise. There's a line of shirts in different colors with each character represented. There's some pins. So those will eventually be coming, I've heard, for other photo ops opportunities there.
Everybody was so excited for all the merch that's exclusive to Lookout. I know Castaway has exclusive merch as well. And somebody was asking, how do you actually pay for things? Do you use your Key to the World card, or do you need some sort of currency while you're there?
Key to the World card works just fine there.
Love that. And somebody is asking about excursions that are outside of the Lookout area. Any idea when those are going to start? I think they already have some available, right?
They started on our sailing. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they're listed to book. I've heard mixed reviews that some of them were altered because the complete experience was not ready yet in whatever respect. That I didn't take a deep dive into this, but they are working on final, those and other options that aren't even advertised or being sold bookable yet. But, you're kind of just getting the ball rolling of sorts and seeing some demand. I know we're already looking forward to one in particular that does go off. It sounds so weird, but yes, I'm excited to go explore into Eleuthera and the other things because there's some beautiful spots like the Blue Hole that inspires the Blue Hole bar on the island, and there's another the Looking Glass Bridge maybe. They're just some very gorgeous things that you can go see elsewhere on tours, and like this cave structure that I don't have a picture to show you, but it's this, if you look for some points of interest in Eleuthera like that, there's some gorgeous spots that you can go visit.
Definitely excited to explore more. And just 2 questions left, and I promise I will let you guys go. Scott, this one's for you because I know you really, really enjoyed your time at Lookout, and Tammy, you did as well. But for those who are feeling let down, right? They're seeing what Lookout has to offer, and they're maybe feeling bummed or like it was overhyped. So that's the word I'm seeing around a lot. What would you say to Disney cruisers who are responding like that?
And this kind of probably goes counter to, somebody that runs a blog. But judge it through your own eyes. Like, just experience it once. If it's not your thing, again, I'm not spending it's your money to spend. So, but at least consider checking it out for yourself instead of through somebody else's lens, if you will, and go experience it. And if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. And I hope, you still found some enjoyment, but if you feel adamant about it, do what you want to do.
I was going to say,
I loved it, but a lot of things like this are very subjective. So, well, I loved it, somebody else might, and I have my reasons, others have their reasons, and that's kind of awesome that there are many options to pick from. And
that's such a good point. I know there's cruise lines for everybody. I have some family who cruises on another line that shall remain nameless, and I just scratch my head at it, but they love it, so good for them, right? There's no wrong way to do your vacation. And Tammy, this next question is coming for you, for all the people who, especially as we're hopefully getting ready for this next batch of itineraries to come out, but people who are looking at Lookout versus Castaway, how are you helping your clients? How is your team helping your clients kind of navigate through the best decision there? Or is there even a best decision?
That's a good question. I don't know. There's different things are going to appeal to different people, as Scott mentioned. I think Castaway is more established. It's more predictable at this point. We know what to expect there. And Lookout is still growing. It's brand new. They're adding things. They're fixing a couple of things. It's only going to get better with time. I would agree with Scott wholeheartedly. I mean, I think everyone should try it. I think a lot of the loudest voices, negative voices right now are people that have never been, that just are looking at pictures and we're expecting maybe a different type of island than this is, a different type of destination than this is. But it is a beautiful destination, and we absolutely loved it. I'm going back next week. I have 2 more cruises scheduled there in the next year, at least 2 at this point. And I mean, I will go back again and again. I loved it. And I also love Castaway. I think there's room in your heart for both of them, but they are 2 different experiences.
Yes, just like none of us, right, have a favorite ship, or maybe we do, but there's room for all of Disney's many destinations, right? I don't know anything about the parks. Couldn't tell you a single thing about the parks, but I'm sure people have, preferences on parks. So there's, room to explore. And go ahead, Scott.
I think it's worth noting they are 2 different. They're 2 different places.
Yeah,
it's not a carbon copy. They're 2 different experiences, and so I'll leave it at that. But don't think everything you know about Castaway you can just take the Lookout. It's not. You're setting yourself up for disappointment if you expect a carbon copy with a new look. It's different. It's just a different experience in many ways. So just take it.
That's such a good point. Yes, having an open mind. Don't go in comparing it. I know this was a Castaway versus Lookout, right? That's what we've been talking about all night. But it is 2 different experiences. So go in with an open mind and get ready to just enjoy it, because that's what you're there for. It's your vacation. And if you are ready to plan your vacation, whether it's to Lookout, to Castaway, to any of Disney's destinations around the world, reach out to Tammy and her team at Storybook Destinations. They're here to help you plan that perfect Disney cruise no matter where you go. And like we were saying earlier, their services are free. So I would say the link to Tammy's page is up on screen now, and I'll get this in the comments for everybody again as well. But reach out to schedule some time to talk through, what is your family like? My family is a bunch of beach bums. We could sit on the beach all day. Lookout sounds right up our alley. But if maybe you don't love sitting around as much, maybe you want a little bit more adventure, there could still be plenty of options at Lookout. So just have those conversations. I see some other people are saying they're beach bums too. So it sounds like we should all go on a cruise together. That's what I'm getting. But Tammy, Scott, thank you both so much for your time. It sounds like we all need to plan a cruise to Lookout sometime soon. But thank you guys so much again. Thank you all for joining. We will see all y'all on board real soon. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.